And one other thing, for better or for worse, none of us here are going to be using a teleprompter, so you're just going to have to we have back here on a table for the taking, if you're going to use it, we have pocket constitutions. We've got some articles on immigration issues. And if you're interested, we also have a mission statement with the goals that our local Tea Party group has put on paper. We'd love for you to take one of those.
Contact.
We also have contact information for congressmen, senators. Back to the goals and missions. Look at that. If it's something that you feel that you can support and you would like to help us in future efforts, we have a sheet back here so that you can give us some contact information and we can get with you at a later date. And also, if you believe in what we're doing, these things don't come freely. We have donation jugs in the back if you care to help us financially. So now if you would please stand, we'll have an opening prayer. Then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then our national anthem. Mr. Tony Cork is going to lead us in prayer.
Shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for the opportunity to gather here today. We have so many blessings to be thankful for because of the country we live in and the incredible vision of our founding fathers. Our founding fathers put their faith in you. They wanted a country that was based on freedom for religion, not freedom from religion. They foresaw a country that was based on liberty, where all people had the opportunity to pursue their dreams. They believed that divine providence had led them to establish this country. Forgive us, for we have strayed from that dream. Oh God, help us to restore that vision for all Americans. May we return to a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. May we truly be one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. Help us to be the people you want us to be. Amen.
Amen.
I thought it was God calling me home. Or another supporter.
Okay, pick out a flag. There's a few around here, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Hunter Allen is going to honor us by singing the Star Spangled Banner. Wherever you want to be.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home
Hunter. Now you can be seated. One little side note, Bruce Cummins and his dad Willard were the two guys. They're from Lawrence County. They were the ones that got our group started 2 years ago. And Bruce's wife, Michelle, died Wednesday morning. So they had her funeral today. So for Bruce and his family, if you'd add them in your prayers this evening, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. I think most of you know, you're old enough to know that the original Tea Party started over taxes back in 1773. And then in 2009, somebody finally got upset again. And we had another Tea Party over taxes. And if you look around the walls of the pavilion here, you'll see that our Tea Party group, the Wabash Valley Tea Party Patriots, has picked out a few more targets that we have concerns over. I'm sure there are more, but that's all we put up. We have been targeted, Tea Party groups all over the nation. We've been called right-wing extremists. We've been called terrorists. We've been called racist, barbarians, even SOBs. One brilliant lady from the West Coast told us we could go straight to hell. You're probably aware of that. President Obama said that Tea Party folks are a threat to democracy. Well, here locally, in the past few weeks, we're experiencing a little targeting by someone. We've had a couple of signs stolen. We've had some written on with spray paint. I don't know if you noticed coming in, there's one out here to the east and there's one up here to the northwest. I guess they had a moment of conscience. The two signs that they stole, they brought back. And we do know that they do know at least one 3-letter word. They wrote L-I-E on it. I'm guessing they're not here to see if we really are telling lies or not. But I'm wondering what these people are afraid of. After last fall's election, when we had some really good results nationwide, many folks said the Tea Party groups are going to go away. They won't last. Well, we're still here. We feel that there's a responsibility that comes with citizenship, and we're accepting that responsibility. So, let's get started. Anita Bush is she has a few comments regarding the just passed 9/11 10th anniversary.
I think I owe Howard the chair. That's all right.
When we were planning our Tea Party, we were thinking about trying to have it the weekend of the anniversary of the 9/11, and that just didn't work out, so we still wanted to talk about it at this meeting. 2 weeks ago tomorrow, we remembered 9/11, marking 10 years since the terrorist attack and killed nearly 3,000 people. Many ceremonies marking the 10 years were held not only across America, but also here in our local communities. Remembering the fallen, supporting the survivors, the families, the friends, and honoring our military, law enforcement, fire departments, and other emergency responders. As you know, there were lots and lots of TV programs leading up to this event, chronicling all the timelines before and after, what happened when, and who did what. For whatever reason, I felt pretty compelled to watch these, and I'm just guessing you probably did too. I watched the memorial service at Ground Zero, the reading of the names of the deceased. I watched a program where a family talked about the loss of their loved one. Kids talking about what they remembered about their dad, a wife talking what she remembered about her husband. I also listened to a panel comprised of former Vice President Dick Cheney, Rumsfeld, who was Secretary of Defense, Dick Myers, who was the Chief Joint of Staff, and Jack Keane, who was the Army Vice Chief. They had some really interesting comments. They talked about all the decisions that had to be made following 9/11. The decisions they didn't have time to really wait on. They had to get things done. They had to get things in place. They talked about how they're still in place, many of these things, that they're still working. 90 countries are sharing intelligence. We can check bank accounts. We've got Guantanamo Bay. We've got indefinite intelligence. We've got military commissions. All these things put in place to keep us safe, and they have thus far. The Patriot Act. They all stated that they believe America needs to continue to be vigilant, and I would think that most of us agree with that, because they believe that future terrorist attacks will occur. Rumsfeld and Keane talked about our all-volunteer military, that there has been no shortage of volunteers, and they're getting the job done. I listened to former President Bush at the dedication of the memorial for Flight 93 in Shanksville. He reminded Americans that at the moment America's democracy was under attack, our citizens on Flight 93 defied their captors and held a vote. Former President Bush went on to say they launched the first counteroffensive on terrorism. They chose to act. Evil is real, and so is courage. Following the attacks of 9/11, there was a great unity in America, patriotism. We were proud to be Americans, and we still are. We need to hang on to that. We need to stand for what makes America great. The 2012 election is before us. We have responsibilities to keep America the best country in the world. We need to be devoted to upholding our Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. We need to safeguard our moral values that make America great by standing for what is right, voicing what is right, and doing what is right. We have a duty also to educate ourselves as to what's happening in the world. And as we educate ourselves, we need to find out what the truth is. Just because somebody says it doesn't mean necessarily that it's the truth. We have a personal responsibility to be the best American citizen possible, representing our country and community responsibly. One of the speeches President Bush gave following the 9/11 attacks, he had these 3 sentences in it. We will not falter, we will not fail, we will not tire. And those are the things that we need to hang on to, plus all these lots of other things, but keep those 3 sentences within your heart. We will not falter, we will not tire, we will not fail. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita. And our next speaker served 6 years in the Army National Guard, working as an intelligence analyst in 4 different countries. He was elected to the Fayette County Board in 2006 at the age of 23, and he defeated the ranking Democrat. He's a small business owner, Longhorn Buildings. It's a post-frame construction company, and he lives in Altamont with his wife and son. Mr. Blaine Wilhauer.
Good afternoon, Crawford County. Good. I'm excited to be here. Give me some Wabash Valley Tea Party patriotism. But first things first, I always like just to take a second and recognize and show my appreciation for all the brave soldiers out there. Because of their willingness to do what it takes, we have the opportunity and the freedom to assemble here today. So, thank you, and I'll definitely People, I don't know if you know it or not, but we've got a fight on our hands. Our politicians and government officials have buried us under a mountain of irresponsible decisions. And I'm here today to tell you, it's time for common sense to get up off the back bench, grab a shovel, and let's get to work. It's high time to restore order and responsible management to our government. Because for far too long, we've just sit on the sidelines and we've watched as politicians continue to write checks that we know we couldn't cash. That's not common sense. That don't even make sense. So let's say no more. For too long, we've watched as our values and our principles have come under direct assault. No more. And for too long, we've been outthought, outworked, and outspent. This can stand no more. Crawford County, it's time to roll up our sleeves and get to work to bring in the fight for transparency, common sense, and yes, good government to Illinois. See, we're tired of politics as usual, and we're really tired of usual politicians politicking against politics as usual. Folks, who here is ready for bold, aggressive, conservative leadership that's accountable to all of the people? Well, here's an idea. Let's expect more from our elected leaders. These are serious times, and I'm out of patience with political posturing. See, in the real world, your value is judged by your results. So it's time to say to these maybe well-intentioned but no-result politicians, you're out of time. No longer can it be good enough just to simply vote the right way. We need leadership. We need action. We need to be demanding an account from our leaders. Let's ask them, what are you specifically taking the lead on? How are you stepping outside the box to change business as usual in your position? Because we know business as usual stinks. It doesn't work. And if our elected leaders and party leaders can't answer these simple questions with authority and conviction, then it's simply not good enough. And we need to let them know. After the disappointment of the last governor's election, it became very clear that change had to start at the grassroots level. Our system just so lends itself to the same old, doing it this way because that's the way that it's always been done. Well, newsflash, it's not working. So we need to be out there recruiting good, thoughtful, real-world experienced candidates to run for every position from the school board to the county board and all the way to the governor. And as I've looked around this political landscape for the last couple of years, there's been one organization that stood out in this fight. Adam Andrzejewski and his organization for the good of Illinois, they've been out there leading this fight. See, they fought the Chicago election machine and they've won. They fought to make Democrats own their tax hike, and they won that too. They fought for forensic audits. We're winning. And if Governor Quinn and our elected leaders in Chicago aren't going to give us the transparent government that we demand, then we just do it ourselves. Heads up, government. Transparency's coming. This man over here, Adam Andrzejewski, has been working tirelessly to open the books. And as a result, no longer can state and local governments hide their spending behind the walls of big government bureaucracy. See, we believe the way to true reform is through people, not politicians. It's our money, and we have every right to have easy access to where it's being spent. So don't leave here today before you sign up and get on our email list, because we need to keep each other informed. See, I'm not a politician. I don't really even like politicians very much. And before I met Adam and he got me involved in the movement for good government, I never really gave a speech before. But what I am is a businessman. And it seems like every day there's politicians, most of whom have never ran anything, just coming up with new ways to make the climate more difficult for employers. And, I was always raised to be proactive and taught that successful people don't sit by and watch the world pass by them. They act. So for the good of Illinois is here today, asking for your action. Join us in the fight to bring transparency, prosperity, and accountability to the Illinois government. Let's put the public servant back in public service, and let's force these career politicians to find a real job. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Next, we have the co-founder of Durbin Geothermal. It's a full-service geothermal loop installation company from Beecher City. He's an accredited driller, a geothermal installer, as well as a certified trainer. He has a quote, "I am an open shop, not union contractor, so even though I have every certification available in the geothermal industry, and have even written some of the tests, my greatest professional accomplishment to date is that I am the AFL-CIO's #1 public enemy, but still the taxpayer's best friend." Dominic Joseph.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Most of the time I'm covered in mud and standing behind a drilling rig. I do have at least 6 pair of rubber boots because they don't dry out very fast. So when it comes to needing the rubber boots and standing in it, I'm pretty good at that. But over the last 10 or 12 years, our family business, just a small business that sprouted out of an oil patch pretty similar to what you guys have over here. We took an old Failings drilling rig out of the field room, a couple tubes of grease, some baling wire, some duct tape, and we put it back together and we got into the geothermal drilling business. And housing was good. We were getting a pretty good market share. It was a specialty business, so we didn't have too terribly much competition. And up until about 2008, life was really good. We went from a couple of us to 25, 30 employees at one point, and we were doing pretty good. We were enjoying life. But then 2008, we had this big, I guess it all kind of came crashing back down on Bill Clinton and Barney Franklin. Nobody paid the home mortgages that they never should have got in the first place. So housing went kaput, and we didn't have a whole lot of new projects to do. But we had the stimulus plan. And the stimulus plan meant the government was building. Now, when the government builds something, they build it big. They do a lot of overkill. I think they pay their engineers a percentage of the project or something because it's always overkill. So we looked at these projects and said, okay, we've still got work. We can do the government work. So then we got to learning about prevailing wage. We got to learning about the Department of Labor. We got into some things that we never had to worry about working for average Joes and homeowners. We thought we were doing all right with it. We made a couple mistakes, had some stumbling blocks along the way, but we're doing pretty good. We were successful. This past spring, I made a trip to Delhi, India, to introduce geothermal on behalf of the Department of Energy to the continent, or to the country of India. I felt pretty privileged. There was some pretty good bragging rights to bring home with me. I thought this was a good deal. Well, I get back, I'm at the airport in O'Hare in Chicago, and my dad calls me and says, "You got a problem." I said, "Okay, what's up?" He said, "You can't do any more government work. You can't do any more state projects. Your bid just got rejected and kicked out. You are not a qualified contractor." I said, "Well, why on earth am I not a qualified contractor?" And he said, "Well, a couple of years ago, you did these other big school jobs, and when your office calculated the health and welfare benefits, they didn't do it right. So you got a letter from the Department of Labor, said you owed more money, you paid more money, they gave you a little fine, you paid the fine, you moved on, you thought life was good, but no, not so much. Life is a little check mark. Remember in grade school you got a check mark beside your name? I always had 4 or 5 of them. With the Department of Labor, you get 2 check marks beside your name before it means anything. Now after you get 2 check marks beside your name, you get to go have a hearing. The only due process you get after 2 separate violations, you get to have a hearing to determine if 1 and 2 were both violations. If you're in trouble on 1 and 2, then quite simply you can face debarment. The Department of Labor, although they're run by some labor-friendly people, are very fair and take it very serious before they debar anybody. I will give them that much. What I didn't know and what I learned through this process is how this comes to be. And the way it works is any contractor that works on any public project can have a complaint called into them or filed against them that they didn't pay prevailing wage. Now, by rule, the Department of Labor in Illinois has to audit every project that they receive a complaint on. And just to give you an example of that, what if everybody over here called the IRS and told them that nobody over here paid taxes, and then all of you guys had to go through an audit? That would be a little excessive, wouldn't it? No due process, no anything, just instantly here you go. So we didn't think anything about this until we realized what was going on. What was going on was Big Labor would file these complaints every time they saw one of our trucks anywhere, every time they saw us as being low bidder anywhere. We didn't think it was too big of a deal until we realized that the end game goal was to either make us sign with a labor union, and then of course it would all go away, or we would be debarred, and then we'd be off the radar, and they wouldn't have to worry about it because they'd like to put us out of business. So this spring, I'm trying to deal with that. And Senator Dale Ryder introduced a bill, and it was in the Senate. It was in the Senate Labor Committee. I went to a hearing to testify on behalf of his bill because it was trying to close some of those loopholes and make it so only a legitimate bona fide complaint would use department resources to create contractor hassle and audit. So in other words, if you worked for me, you'd have a right to file a complaint against me. But if you saw my truck driving down the road, you wouldn't have a right to file a complaint and put us through the hassle or waste the department's resources. Pretty common sense thing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, not in Springfield. So I'm at this hearing, and the senators are asking questions back and forth, and they ask if anyone from the Department of Labor is there. Well, lo and behold, the director of the Department of Labor is sitting right beside me. I didn't even know who she was. Turn to find out, usually a government agency will have a legislative liaison that deals with these things. So I still don't know why a department head took a seat at a committee hearing and answered questions. Now, her name was Catherine Shannon. Her previous jobs were working in Speaker Madigan's office, and she was Director of Political Affairs for AFL-CIO. All right, you guys understand where I'm coming from. Now, get this. We sang the same songs. We agreed completely, her and I. She said, yes, labor unions, and keep in mind the whole time going through this, knowing these senators, I never said the word labor union. Never said it. I said interested third party. The director of the Department of Labor said, I've had this conversation with the labor unions, and they won't back off. And by rule, we have to audit it, so yes, this is a harassment technique that's being used. Now, since then I kind of learned the way around it. It's pretty simple. All you do is you tell the BA, business agent, that yeah, you can have all our employees' benefits and perks and all the package, you can have all that. And then they leave you alone. They don't care. Once they got the money, they're done. They don't care if you use your own people or if you hire out of local hall. Doesn't matter. They get the money, they're happy. But I looked at where the money was. When I got to thinking about it, say, let's just take, for example, Local 150 in Chicago, just because it's kind of big and everybody's heard of it and it's got a great deal of pull in Springfield. Local 150 in Chicago has about 26,000 people on their roster. At any given time, 16,000 of those are working. And these are good people working to make a living. Probably 90% of them are good people that I'd enjoy hanging out with. Working to make a living. Some of them contribute politically. And that's okay. It's an optional thing, and it's their right to do that if they want to. I'm not going to talk about that. But all of them pay in union dues. Illinois is not a right-to-work state, so it's mandatory you pay in your union dues. Now, that might be anywhere from $1 to $5. Might be 5% of your wages, which is pretty common. So if we do some quick math, we take 16,000 people working 8 hours a day, 200 days a year, which is about right for the construction industry. 16,000 people, 8 hours a day, 200 days a year. How many foundations for fair contracting can you afford? How many lawyers can you have on retainer? How many lobbyists can you employ? Better yet, a rally like this, how many buses could you fill up with your people to bring in and buy them some lunch? That many people contributing at that much. As conservatives, we don't have that kind of resources. Most of you are probably just like me and don't really like the idea of belonging to a group or organizing. We're all usually just pretty well individuals that want to live our lives and be left alone. Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, sorry guys, it's football season, so hopefully everybody grabs this analogy. You heard of 11-man Ironman football? That's the game we're in. That's what we have to play. We have to play like there's 11 of us on our bench playing every position, and there's 76 on the opposing bench. And the simple reason why is there is 76 on the opposing bench. Just this year, maybe a little bit in response to our goings around on the Prevailing Wage Project, just this year, the good folks in Springfield were nice enough to pass a law that now mandates the use of project labor agreements. Anybody know what that means? Union-only workforce. So if you want to do a State of Illinois Public Works project, the way it works is like this. If the body that's getting the project done wants money from the state, to get that money from the state, they'll have to sign a project labor agreement. With the project labor agreement means all negotiations, all pricing, all union across the board, which means all Democratic Party contributors across the board. So there's 11 of us, and there's 76 of them on that bench. Now Adam's done great things, and one of the biggest tools that he's had is honesty, integrity, and the language. Controlling the language. It's the very, very little simple things. Like you turn on the news, even the Republican debate. I couldn't believe nobody called it out. Herman Cain did a little bit, but nobody really called it out. When did health insurance turn into health care? Anybody notice that little change of words there? With Obama? Yeah. Health care comes from your doctor. Health insurance is the terms on which you pay for health care. Somehow that got flipped around. When did an illegal immigrant become an undocumented worker?
Yeah.
I mean, really, when did that happen?
Social justice.
Social justice. That's a joke in itself. Social justice. So, what it means is that we now have to dig deep. If $60 to $90 an hour is a fair wage, then we've really got to dig deep to push and support the people that are going to push and support the ideals that we stand for and the ideals that this country was built on. This country was not built by robbing from all of these people to support these people. This country was built by all of these people working, and when they saw these people hurting, they helped them back to work.
Yeah.
That's what in closing, and in answer to Blaine's question, my answer is simply this. What am I going to do? I'm going to put my rubber boots on. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to work in one of the most corrupt states in the Union. I'm going to bid every project as competitively as I possibly can. I'm going to use my resources to support the people who helped me. Specifically, Kyle McCarter was the senator who got me an audio of that Senate hearing. He got me an audio CD of it the next day. That's normally a 60 to 90 day FOIA request. He got it for me the next day. I'm going to use my resources to support and help those people. I'm going to use my resources to support and help things like this. And like any good captain, I'm either going to win or I'm going to sink my battleship along the way. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Don. Well, you briefly mentioned immigration. I'm going to go back national. I'd like to make you aware, maybe you're already aware, but a couple of immigration issues. Immigration is affecting our nation in all sorts of ways. Population's increasing, of course, so it's affecting our environment. It's affecting our economy, our crime rates, our poverty level, our education level, our wages, unemployment, and jobs. Well, you probably noticed jobs has been a headliner here in the past few weeks. We got a wonderful new jobs plan come out. We also have 20 million unemployed or underemployed citizens in the United States. So I would like to speak just a minute on how immigration is affecting our jobs situation. In August, 26 states in the Union had their unemployment rates increase. Illinois, who happens to be ranked, I think, 48th now in states to do business in, is 9.9% unemployment. They've increased 4 months in a row now. The national rate is 9.1% if you believe the government's figures. Now, an illegal immigrant is someone who has entered the states without permission or has stayed past the expiration date of his legal permit. The first time he is caught, it's a misdemeanor. If he's caught again, it's a felony. But either way, in my eyes, it's a crime. Federal law also provides that any alien who is present in the United States in violation of the law is deportable and shall be removed subject to order. Well, unless you're living in a cave or you've been under a rock somewhere, you've probably already noticed that enforcement isn't happening nearly often enough. Because we have, and I don't know, I haven't figured out yet how they got them together to count them, but they say we've got 12 million at least illegal aliens. Well, if they can find them to count them, they ought to be able to find them to press charges against them. Immigration groups, lobbyists for open borders, and politicians who see these folks as potential votes have been dictating the terms with which we view and describe people in our country illegally. And Don just made reference to it a bit ago. Illegal has such a nasty connotation. It probably hurts their feelings. So why not call them undocumented? Or we could call them people that live in the shadows. These are code words to cause us to turn a blind eye to 7 million illegal aliens, and there again, I don't know how they counted them, but they are already holding construction jobs, service jobs, and manufacturing jobs in our country. They're not just the ones picking beans or apples or strawberries. And these groups believe that illegal aliens should be free to compete for as many U.S. jobs as they like, so long as they don't commit any other crimes. And the news media, of course, is happy to carry the news, share it with the nation. Well, I want to make you aware, in case you aren't, to combat this issue, Representative Lamar Smith of Texas has introduced a bill, H.R. 2885. It's called the Legal Workforce Act. It's a bill that could open up millions of jobs to unemployed Americans and unemployed legal immigrants. just this past Wednesday, I got word that it came out of the House Judiciary Committee. So I would urge that you take time to contact your representative or any representative. They've all got phone numbers, and let them know that you want them to support this bill. We have back here in the back a sheet with information on that bill. Our sheet is marked 2164. I'm not sure how they changed the numbers, but it's the same bill. Now, back to Illinois. I mentioned before we were nearly 10% unemployment. Something I learned just the other day. 75% of the illegal aliens in the United States live in only 6 states. Guess which one of the states is? Illinois. Illinois, exactly. You got it. And these illegals aren't loafing. They're working. They're doing the lower skilled construction jobs, manufacturing jobs, service jobs, where unemployment is the highest. So we've got these 9.9% unemployed citizens of Illinois that are having to compete with the illegals. They have no right to be in the country, much less be employed, but they're here. So then, to add insult to injury, our Illinois legislature passed, and Governor Quinn signed into law August 1st, I believe, an Illinois version of the DREAM Act. This DREAM Act will allow up to 95,000, and that's the pro-dreamers figure, not anti-dreamers, up to 95,000 immigrants up to 29 years old to take advantage of private scholarships and attend our universities. And with this additional education, not only will they're already competing for the lower skilled jobs, they'll be qualified with this education to compete for the more highly skilled jobs as well. Well, the governor and the news media, of course, are singing the praises of this bill. And you've probably read and heard on TV, they dredge up all sorts of compelling stories about illegal immigrant students who just want to get an education. They haven't done anything wrong. Well, they ignore the fact that these people are in the United States without permission. They're criminals. As I said before, 9% national unemployment rate, legal 19 to 29-year-old age group people without college, their unemployment rate is 30%. Legal Hispanics come in at 35% in that same age group, and blacks at 40%. So they're already looking for work. Some kids, as we all know, I can't find a job, I'm going to go back to college. Well, now the legislators who have voted for this bill and the governor have stuck 95,000 more people that are competing for admission to colleges as well as jobs. Well, I think that lawmakers' responsibility should be to the people that live in the United States legally and in the state of Illinois as citizens, not to illegal immigrants. The law has been broken, and there is a designated punishment. These folks have no legal right to work in the United States, yet we seem to disregard the law and even allow them to attend the universities. Don't you find it interesting that some people get a choice as to which laws apply to them and which laws they choose to ignore? And even sadder is the fact that because of bureaucracies and attitudes, those in charge of seeing that laws are enforced aren't or can't do the enforcing. Illegal immigration may not be the sole or even the primary cause of these unemployment rates, but millions of our unemployed Americans, both U.S.-born and foreign-born, but here legally, would cease to be jobless if illegal foreign workers were moved out of these jobs. Representative Barbara Jordan the late Representative Barbara Jordan, she's a Democrat from Texas, stated it is both a right and a responsibility of a democratic society to manage immigration so that it serves the national interest. Thank you.